Now this isn't a while loop, and so when this statement is done, it's going to come back again. If it has something, then line will always line will always have something. We are basically we are still dealing with the very first line. This reads the very first line. Line will contain the contents of the very first line. We are checking to see if it's not equal to nothing. If it's not equal to nothing, it means line contains something, and so print it. And then the while loop starts again, but line still contains the very first line, right? And it keeps on going. Line will always contain the very first line, because this is a loop. This is the very first time we're reading, the very first line from the file. And so what we want to do is after each iteration, we want to go ahead and call readLine again. Remember I said that anytime you call readLine, so basically this statement is going to first of all read 4 to 5. And then it's going to read it before the program starts. Read position will be here. Anytime you open a file in read mode, the read position will be right here waiting for you. Now we called readLine, so it's going to read this line 4 to 5, store 4 to 5 in line, and move the read position to the beginning of 6. And so until we call readLine again, the read position will always be here, and line will contain 4 to 5. And so this, if we don't read the second line, okay, if we don't read the next line to check, then we are always checking the content of the first line, which is not really what we want. Because if this is 4 to 5, if this is the first line and it contains something, it will be an infinite loop basically. And so after we've read the first line, we've checked to see the first line is not empty, printed the line, we want to go ahead and call readLine again. Numbers file.readLine, and then that's basically, remember I said that after reading the first line, it moves the position to the next line and waits for you. Now we've called it, oops, I made a mistake here. Now we've called readLine again, and so it's going to read 6, right? And once you read 6, we need a place to store it. So I'm going to store it in a variable called line. It doesn't matter if this is the same name, right? This is outside of the while loop. It doesn't matter. We have this while loop will keep on going. So basically, it doesn't matter. We are just overwriting the content of it, right? Because it's the while loop. If anytime we read a new line, the contents are going to change. It doesn't matter, all right? And so we call readLine again, and then readLine will basically read basically from the read position all the way to the end, and then it's going to move the read position to the next line, which is in front of 7, and wait for us to call readLine again. And so this line is going to read, let's say 6, right? And it's going to check, is 6 not equal to, and it's basically 6 not empty, and if 6 is not equal to an empty string, then print it out, and then read the next line, which means it's going to read 7 and move the position to the next line and wait for us. And so it reads 7, checks to see if 7 is not empty, prints it, and then you read the next line again, 8, and so on and so forth. It's important you read the next line, because otherwise you only be dealing with the very first line here. If you don't have this line here, I'm going to comment it out. If you don't have this line here to read the next line, then you're always going to be dealing with the very first line here. All right, and so I think this is going to work, for the most part. But let's test it out just to be sure, right? Now, I forgot to mention something. Now, realize that I save this file, okay, in the location. Okay, in this location, in the chapter 6 folder over here, and I called numbers.txt. This is the same location I'm going to save the program. That's why I just typed in the name of the file here as an argument. Okay, if the file is stored, let's say, in a different location, let's say stored on a desktop, you'd have to type in the full path to where the file is stored here. Now, because I'm going to save the program, because the program and the file are going to be in the same location, I just type in the name of the file, because once I do that, they can find each other. But if the file is stored somewhere else, you have to type in the full path. If it's on a desktop, you have to type in the full path and then the name of the file. All right. Okay. And so let's realize that this is a main function, right? And nothing is going to happen if we run the program. Nothing is going to happen. Let's just run it. Save the file. I'm going to save it in the same location where I saved the file. So Dex.python program challenges, chapter 6, file display, and I'm going to save it right here. I'm going to save it as file display.py. Save it. If I run this, you realize that nothing is happening because this is a main function. We've only defined it, but we have to go ahead and call it, right? If we don't call it, nothing happens. This is just a definition of a function, right? Although we are, doing things, we have code that's doing stuff here. We haven't called the main function. It's a function itself, and so all we have to do is just call the main function this way. And so when we run this, we can see that it's displaying the lines in the file. But when you look at the file, there are no extra line breaks in between them. The file itself has just the numbers in a sequence, right, with no line breaks in between them. Over here, it's displaying the number, a space, the number, a line break. And so let's fix that. All right, and so anytime, so basically, in actual sense, right? Because so basically, in actual sense, these numbers, right, are stored in this file. Okay, this way they're stored, as a number itself, right? Ended, okay, or basically ending with a new line character. And so basically, in actual sense, right, you don't really see it, but it's behind the scenes, right? It's stored this way. It's stored as 45, right? Concatenated, okay, with a new line character like this. That's how they are stored. So basically, in other words, anytime I read a line, okay, I'm basically reading 45 and a new line character, right? Because the new line character is what forces it to be. It's basically what forces 6 to be displayed on the next line. In other words, because the numbers are stored in the file this way, anytime you read a line, you are reading 45 and a new line character. You're reading 6 and a new line character. You're reading 7 and a new line character. We don't see it behind the scenes. These numbers are stored in a file that way. They're stored this way. Let me use a comment to explain. They're stored as 45 with a new line character as 6, 7, 8. All right, as 6 with a new line character, 7 with a new line character, right? 8 with a new. This is how they are stored. And anytime you call a read line, it reads all the way until it finds a new line character and it stops. And so, so the next time you call read line again, it's going to read from 6 all the way, okay, until it finds a new line character and it stops. And then you call read line again, and it reads 7 all the way until it finds a new line character and then it stops. That's really what's happening. And so by default, right, the print function ends with a new line. By default, the print function ends with a new line. When you print something, it prints out that number, okay, and it moves the position from where it's at to the next line here. By default, that's how the print function works. Okay, by default, the print function, after printing out whatever you've told it to print, also ends with a new line character. So what's really happening is you read the line. You're basically reading 45 all the way to a new line character. You're reading this combined, and this, when it's displayed in a print function, right, it's going to be processed, right? It's going to be displayed. You're displaying 45 and a new line character, right? So it displays 45, all right, but it's also processing the new line character. It's also displaying the new line character. So it's displaying 45. But when a new line character is displayed, it's processed or in a way displayed, right? It forces the position to move from here to here. And so it's displaying 45 and a new line character. So it's displaying 45. The new line character is basically displayed this way. The position is going to move from here to here. So we'll currently be here, right? But the print function itself will currently be here on this line. The print function itself also ends with a new line character. So after displaying the whole of this, also it's going to move one step down here. Okay, and then we call read line again. Read line is going to read 6 and a new line character. Readline basically stops until it finds a new line character. And so it displays 6, right? And when it processes the new line character, basically the position is going to move from here to the next line and wait here. But the print function also ends with a new line character, meaning the position is going to move from where it's at to the next line, right? And then it's going to be right here, and so on and so forth. And that's why they're displayed this way. Now, if we read a number, right, we don't want the new line character with it, okay? Because the numbers are stored in the file this way, it's going to read 45 and a new line character, right? And so we don't want this just with it, but it comes with it though. But we don't want it with it. There is a function called rstrip. It means this. Rstrip basically allows us to strip what is on the right. Okay, it allows us to strip, okay, what is on the right of a certain content. So let me do this before we print this line out, right? Before we print this line out, when we read the line, before we print it out, we know this line, the content of this line, okay, which is the first time it's going to be this, has a new line character. I can rstrip. Okay, so rstrip is basically a method, right? So I can say line.rstrip here. In other words, I'm going to strip off a specific thing. I'm stripping, right? I'm going to pass in as an argument what I want to strip on the right of this line, and so I'm stripping the new line character. Okay, because I know that on this line, when I call read line, it reads this line, but I don't want the new line character on the right of this whole line. I don't want it, and so line, which is basically what's all of this, I'm stripping on the right side of this line the new line character, and that is basically going to print out just 45. It's going to strip out the new line character here and leave out just 45. Right? You're not including the space, but let me just put this in, and leave out just 45 this way. And so when it's printing out 45, now it's going to print out 45 right over here. But we know the print function ends with a new line character, so it prints out 45, right? The print function ends with a new line character, so the position is going to move from here to here, and then that's it. And then it reads 6 all the way here. But when it's printing out this whole line, it strips out the new line character, and so it's going to be this. And then it's going to display 6 on this line here, okay? And then the new line character, the print function ends with a new line character, so it's going to move the position to the next line. So by stripping off the new line character, you are first of all displaying just the number itself, and then allowing the print function to just end with a new line character. You're not having an extra space. We are not having an extra new line at the end of these numbers, these lines when we read them. And so rstrip basically strips. Okay, the R stands for right. We are stripping what is on the right of this line, and what we are stripping from the right. Okay, what we are stripping from the right of this line is the new line character. Okay, and so when I run this, we can see that the numbers are displayed exactly the same way they are displayed in the file over here. We can see that if I delete, let's say, some content in this file itself, I save it and I run this program again, it's going to show us just that. If I come back and I change this completely to, let's say, 67 4 5 3 3 3, let's just do that and save this, it's going to show us exactly what's in the file. We can see it here. All right, so I hope this was clear, and I hope I didn't confuse anyone, right? All right, so we're done. Basically, the program wants us to assume that this file exists on the computer, and we created the file, right? And we basically displayed all the numbers in the file. And that's exactly what we've done. This is the file, and we've displayed the numbers in the file here, and this is a program that's doing that for us. Okay, we're done. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and I'll do everything to respond to them as always. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time with the next program. All right then. Bye-bye.